Hello everyone, it's Birdie here, the Recycled Hippie Chick. I wanted to pop in, basically just to chat, but I'm going to finish my little doomahickey that I started that I saw Janet Nash make this morning while I was watching her. But first of all, remember the other day I said, does anybody know of a warming plate for my coffee mug, or should I invent one? Hello, it's already out there. Yesterday, one of my watchers, Arlene, sent me a link to a coffee mug warmer, which led me down a rabbit trail. I was looking at every coffee warmer under the sun in my budget. And then I started getting off of another rabbit trail, noticing that they're all made in China. And could I search one out that was made in America? I spent like an hour and a half looking at, I do that. I need one thing, and then I think I have to look at every single one of them before I can get one. And then I usually go back to the very first one I looked at. But I just went down these rabbit trails. And then today I went out and got in the mailbox, and look what I have. A coffee warmer. You put your coffee cup on it, it turns on. When the blue light's on, it is keeping your coffee warm. When you pick it up, it shuts off. So you can't accidentally forget to shut it off. If your coffee's on, you're in trouble. If you get up and go play in the yard, you're in trouble. But if you take your coffee with you, it shuts off. This is from Ricky Tikki Tavi, or Ricky Midbrod. Did I say that right, Ricky? Midbrod? Anyway, if you're on Instagram, she's Ricky Tikki Tavi. If you want to watch her on YouTube, she's Mickey Midbrod, Midbrod. Thank you, Ricky. Oh my gosh, you did not have to do this. I am so happy. And my tea is hot, and I've been sitting in here for an hour. At first, I thought I was going to be disappointed because it was not keeping it hot. It was kind of cooling down to just under what is enjoyable. But when I read the instructions like I'm supposed to, it clearly says lay something over it like a lid. So I've been throwing my mug rug on top of it, and bam, heats right back up to hot. So I am going to probably slow stitch a nice stiff little lid to put on my mug, and I'm going to be set. So thank you, Ricky. I am a happy camper, and I'm so glad I didn't order one last night when I was going down the rabbit trail. So I wanted to tell Ricky thank you, first of all, because I am going to talk about some stuff today that, I don't know, is on my heart. And it's about health and eating and things I'm going through and things that Linda's mixed up mess is going through. And I was messaging her back and forth this morning and thought, forget that. This is too much to speak into my, phone messages. I'm just going to do a video and talk about it. So, because we are a little community to help each other, and we can all help each other. Maybe I can help you, and certainly you can help me and have helped me. And so maybe somebody else out there wants to hear this or has information that they can, share. So let me tell you what I'm doing first. I was watching Janet Nash this morning, and she was slow stitching her little Alzheimer's hearts, in which I so appreciate Janet, because my mom had dementia, which was, just like Alzheimer's. I'm convinced there's a difference. I did my own study with my mother, and I feel like I know the difference. I'll just go ahead and tell you what I think. I mean, we're sitting here to gab. She's making these little purple hearts in memory of Alzheimer's. My mom had what I call dementia. After I put her in the nursing home, and she was in there for 4 years, 3 years, maybe 4. I spent many, 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 many hours at the nursing home. I took care of my parents for 7 years before I broke my promise and stuck them in a nursing home, which I told them I would never do, but I had no idea they would ever get dementia. So I felt guilty, and I spent many hours up there, 3 days a week for 4 or 5 hours. So I spent a lot of time in the memory hall of the nursing home. So everybody in my mom's hall, and it was a small hall, it was about 12 people in the memory hall. Everybody in there had dementia or Alzheimer's. This is what I observed. People like my mom, which I think she had dementia, could remember that they needed to go to the restroom. They could remember to pick the fork up and eat the food. They could remember to scratch their head or, stand up from a chair. She just didn't have memories of people, other things her memory was gone on, but she still knew how to function. She could put her clothes on sometimes, but they would not be on right. Her underwear may be on over her pants or whatever. Now, there were people in there with what I call Alzheimer's. These people completely forgot everything. They would end up in a recliner chair, like a wheelchair that's like a recliner, because they couldn't remember to sit up. They couldn't remember they had to be fed. They couldn't remember to eat. They had to be diapered because they couldn't remember they had to go to the restroom. They forgot everything and were basically almost like a vegetable in their chair. And eventually some of them had to have a feeding tube because they forgot to swallow and do everything. To me, that was Alzheimer's. My mom, I feel like, had dementia. So I feel like there's a difference. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Don't know if it's scientific or not. Nothing I tell you tonight is going to be scientific. This is all Birdie's, my opinion, okay? I'm not a doctor. Do not listen to what I say and do it without researching stuff yourself. So I'm watching Janet Nash make these little hearts. And then she shows her little sewing pouch, which is nothing like mine. So go on to Janet's and look at her video, because of course I take everything and turn it into something different. She had this cute little grab and go sewing kit that she just rolls up and throws in her purse and takes it to the doctor's office, throws whatever she's working on in there. And so I'm making my version of that. Hers had pockets. Hers had 6 pockets. Mine will have 6 pockets, but I folded mine. My material was a little long, so I sewed my first strip in for a pocket, and I folded this up over it. I decided, well, I like this material, so I'm just going to turn these a pocket. No, mine's only got 4 pockets. Hers had 6. Mine's going to have 4. A pocket. And then I'm going to take... I'm going to take this felt and cut a little strip over here. And nothing I do is straight or measured or anything else. And I'm going to sew this on to stick some needles and pins and stuff in. She had a cute little one too, but hers was all measured and pretty and looked good. So I think I'm going to do that over here. But first, what I wanted to do, because this is rough and I want to use this as a pocket, she put seam binding all around hers to cover the edges. I love the edges, so I'm embracing them. I'm not going to use it there. I'm going to use it down here to strengthen this so I can use it for a pocket. Okay, so I'm just going to do that while I gab and tell you what's on my heart. All of us who watch Linda's Mixed Up Mess, know that I'm not convinced, she got the diagnosis of the big C word. And I believe it's in your lungs, right, Linda? Supposedly. And I'm saying that. I'm saying supposedly now because, first of all, I'm praying for a complete healing. And I believe it's going to happen because she is doing it, I believe. She's going to do it the natural way. First of all, how can they diagnose her with the big C word? When they went in for a biopsy and came out and then called her back in and said, oops, we didn't get a nice enough specimen for a biopsy. We need to go in and do it again. How can you say she has this when you don't even have a good enough specimen to do a biopsy on? Anyway, that's just my question. And that there may be meaning to that, but I'm not going to accept it. So she said, no, I'm not going to do it. She had already decided she was not going to do any of their treatment or anything anyway. Girlfriend stopped smoking. She had smoked for 30 years. Stopped smoking and has turned her way of eating upside down. She has given up processed food. She has given up sugar. She has done drinking more water, doing all kinds of things to try to take care of herself naturally. That led me back to a story I remembered about 20 years ago. My neighbor down the country road here from me, he had cancer, and I don't remember what it was, but they told him he had terminal cancer. So he said, well, if I have terminal cancer, I'm not doing all of your rigmarole. I'm just going to enjoy my life, from here on out. He asked his doctor, he said, okay, I'm not going to do any treatments, but if you could give me one bit of advice, what would it be on my journey? And his doctor said, if I could give you one bit of advice, I would say give up red meat and all nitrates. Because he said nitrates were like Miracle-Gro is to a plant. Nitrates are like Miracle-Gro to cancer. That's what he said. He said it feeds it. So I was just curious. Well, what's a nitrate? What are nitrates in? So I was just looking things up because I am a nosy body. And it said that nitrates were in the preserving of meats, like cured meats, like bacon, lunch meat, hot dogs, things like that have nitrates in it to help preserve it. So, and I don't know what red meat does. I don't know what the correlation of that with cancer is. But that's been more than 20 years ago, and my neighbor is still with us. So, I believe that he took that terminal answer that he got from the doctors and turned it around and fixed it with his own healing of his own body the natural way. Now, I'm just going to tell you, remember, everything I tell you is Birdie's opinion. I feel like the pharmaceutical company is out to just make money off of us. And of course, we can say this because we're conspiracy theorists and all this. But the stuff I am seeing nowadays is just, it's like confirmation to me that that is completely the truth. First of all, the other day, and I can't show you, I took a picture of my TV screen. I don't watch the regular news because I feel like it's very biased, and I don't like to get angry, so I just don't watch it. But I was getting ready and to go somewhere the other day, and when I go somewhere, I turn the TV on for the dogs. So they have a noise. And the local news was on, our local news. No, it wasn't the local, it was national news, because they were saying we have new national guidelines for childhood obesity. And it showed the guidelines on the screen. And the first one was activity levels and exercise. And the second one was diet medications or weight loss medications. The third one was weight loss surgery for children. That's how we're going to take, that's our new national guidelines for curing obesity problems. I could not believe what I was seeing, and I thought if I told somebody this, they would not believe me, so I took a picture of my screen. Now, if we're not out to help the pharmaceutical companies make money off of us, then why wouldn't, instead of the government having new health guidelines like that, why wouldn't they change things to help us eat better? Like no dyes in our food, no nitrates in our food, no harsh preservatives in our food. Why wouldn't they start changing things like that to help those kids? I went down the aisle, very same day I took that picture. Actually, I think I was on my way to the grocery store because that's where I started getting angry. I went down the aisle that has the almond milk, and it just so happened to be the aisle that has the prepackaged little cups of Jell-O, the Capri Suns, the apple juices that are supposed to be apple juices, but you know they're not. All the kids' stuff that you could put in their lunches were down one side of the aisle where the drinks, every known colorful, fake chemical drink you could stick in a child was on the right side, and on the left side was every kind of colorful fruit roll-up, fruit gummy, wazoo cookies, everything on the left side, and colorful puddings and Jell-Os, and I'm just seeing all these colors. Like, we're not happy to eat unless it looks like Willy Wonka land. And it angered me because this is what we are enticing America's children with so that we can give them diet drugs and do gastric bypass on them. That's not the answer. Why can't they you know what? America is one of maybe 3 countries in the world that allows high fructose corn syrup to go into their food products. It's outlawed in most every other country. And here, why couldn't we just start with getting rid of high fructose corn syrup as an ingredient? And the colors. I don't care that my macaroni and cheese is bright orange. I don't care. Why can't you take the color out of that? Anyway, that's my anger. I don't understand why we have to become scientists to be able to take care of our body and eat right and not be addicted. Hello, I'm Birdie. I am an addict. I am addicted to sugar. And everything I buy adds to my addiction. I had a can of green beans. They had sugar in them. I got kidney beans to put in my chili. They had sugar in them. The other day, we got our regular, what we used to love, Ragu spaghetti sauce. We couldn't hardly eat it. It was like eating candy. I look on the jar. It has sugar in it now. Why? Why do we have to put sugar in everything? I feel like I'm a hopeless addict because it's so hard to get it out of my system when it's in everything. You know, to me is, well, I'm not going to eat that graham cracker or that Snickers because I'm going sugar-free. No sugar, no dear. It's in everything. So I'm just angry about it. And I am sorry to Linda because I told myself way back a few months ago when she said she was going to do the hardest challenge of her life and quit smoking. I said, you know what? If Linda's going to try to quit smoking, then the least I can do is try to quit sugar. Here I am, diagnosed with Lyme, seeing a doctor for Lyme, and the very first thing he told me is I needed to change. The first two things I needed to do when I go home was to get rid of gluten and sugar to help end this disease. While I was waiting on the medications, I needed to be getting rid of gluten and sugar. And guess what? I have not done it. I've emptied my pantry 2 or 3 times, but I end up getting it all back in. And I stopped for probably a week and emptied my pantry again when Linda stopped smoking. Guess what? She made it. Bertie didn't. I wasn't able to give up the stuff I said I was going to give up, but Linda did. So I am mad at myself. I want to do this. I don't know how. The only thing I can't, listen, God will help us. Okay, I'm not saying, but sometimes I think he wants us to be strong and do some crap on our own. You know what I'm saying? He's not a gimme God, rub the genie bottle and he pops out and says, no sugar cravings. We have to go through our own battles sometimes. So, with God's help, I can do this. I'm not asking him for a miracle because I got myself into this. I need to get myself out. But that's what I'm upset about. Anyway, before I go into my weed story, not marijuana, weeds in your garden, I want to talk to you about eating my toast. I told you I just wanted to gab. Janet Nash, thanks a lot, Janet, got me craving orange marmalade. Well, guess what? It's full of sugar. Not your fault, Janet. I could have gotten the sugar-free, but I chose not to. I got a jar of orange marmalade because, honestly, it was my dad's favorite jelly, and it's my favorite jelly, too, and I had forgotten about it for a long time, and when I saw her with her marmalade toast with her tea, it just made me in the mood for marmalade again. So I got some. You need to take Janet Nash's advice, and when she sits down and calmly has her tea and her marmalade toast, you need to sit down and have your tea and your marmalade toast. That's so hot. I love it. I made me some marmalade toast the other day and cut it diagonally, just like my mom used to do. Every time we had toast, number one, if we had toast and jelly, she always buttered it first and then put the jelly on. And she cut the toast diagonally, so we had 2 little triangles. It was so wonderful to me. So I cut my marmalade toast in triangles, and I was just going to have my marmalade and tea. And I see a squirrel here, and I see a squirrel there, and I go put a load of laundry in, and I'm biting on my marmalade toast. And I do the dishes, and I'm biting on my marmalade toast. And before you know it, I'm done with all those chores, and I want to go sit and enjoy my tea and marmalade. Well, first of all, my tea was cold. And second of all, I'm like, where's my marmalade toast? People, I had ate it and didn't realize it. We need to do more mindful eating. When we eat, we should sit, slowly eat it. Eat it in the Janet Nash fashion. Gentle eating, slow, calmly, enjoy it, chew it. And I think our digestive system will be way better for it. And I know my brain will be, because I was so mad that I didn't enjoy my toast. And I didn't want to make more because that's not good for me. So when we're eating, we need to pay attention to what we're doing. Now, on to my weeds. If you're still with me, I know some of you I have probably lost. And that's fine, because what I'm talking about is not for everybody. But the next thing I want to say, I'm hoping Linda sticks around to listen, because this is where I am serious about stuff. Dang it. I forgot to look her up. I'll look it up and link it down in the basement. You know, I was a personal gardener. There's certain weeds that I learned that were edible, and I loved. I had a couple gardeners called me the weed eater, because I was eating more weeds than I was pulling sometimes out of their yard. I love purslane. I love chickweed. I love henbit. Dandelions are an acquired taste. I love lamb quarters. I make lamb quarters when they're out every morning with my fried egg. I throw in, when I'm done frying my egg, I fry some onions and mushrooms with my egg, and then I throw in a handful of lamb's quarters because they shrink up like spinach. And then I just dribble some balsamic vinegar in there and a little bit of hoisin sauce. Anyway, love lamb's quarters. So I was a weed eater. Then I'm watching TV, and I see this show on TV. It's called Alone. It's about these people that go out into the Alaskan wilderness, and they'll send 10 people into the wilderness, and whoever makes it the longest wins, $1 million or whatever, the price is. Well, I'm watching this show, and these guys, these big burly guys are on there, and this scrawny little 90-pound soaking wet girl is on there. And she was so happy and perky that it was almost nauseating, and I thought, she is not going to make it. That girl is just out to be, the life of the party, and she's going to get killed by a bear. Well, the more the show goes on, the more I see these guys going, oh my gosh, if I can't catch a fish or trap, a grouse, I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to have to tap out. And this girl, her name was Nicole, and I can't remember her last name, but I will link it in the basement. She's just hopping and skipping around the woods, and she's picking mushrooms, and she's picking seaweed out of the bay, and she's got her fire going, and she's cooking up these sauteed vegetables, weeds liching off of the trees. She's just happy and smiling and have the best time of her life. And time goes on, and these guys are standing there talking to the video saying, I think I'm going to have to tap out. And right behind them is a whole pile of this seaweed that Nicole's living off of, floating in the water behind this man, and he doesn't realize he could be eating that seaweed and living. It was full of iron and all kinds of stuff. And he thinks if he's not catching meat or catching fish or a bird, then he just ain't going to make it. Well, most of them didn't make it. And this little gal, Nicole, did make it. And she didn't make it clear to the end, but she made it like 53 days out there in the wilderness eating. There were times when she caught her weight in salmon, but for the most part, she was eating wild mushrooms and weeds. So time goes on, and I'm on Facebook, and I get this pop-up advertisement thing of this Edible Weeds of North America or whatever. Lost Ways Book of Weeds, or I don't know what it was. And I noticed the lady's picture. She's actually a doctor, and a doctor herbologist. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that lady looks so familiar. Well, I keep seeing this ad pop up, and pretty soon I'm like, what the heck? Where have I seen this lady before? So I Googled her name. She was on 2 seasons of Alone. She was the little gal that was out there eating weeds, living the life. Come to find out, she had MS, and I don't know if she'd cured it or if she just had it in remission, but at one point she was in a wheelchair, and now she's out on Alone because she's learned how to eat weeds, and she cured herself of the MS. So I'm like, dang, if there ain't something to this weed eating that I'm doing. So I buy her book, and I start this book, and I can't find it because, you know, I cleaned and organized and put it somewhere where it'd be safe and secure, and I can't find it. This book will have like a page, like let's say it's purslane. It'll have a picture of the purslane so you can identify it, and it'll tell all about the purslane. It'll tell its edibility, what parts of it are edible, what vitamins and minerals it has in it, and then it'll tell if you're needing it medicinally, what it'll do for you medicinally and how you can prepare it. Do you dry it for a tea later? Do you put it in a tincture? And then I'm like, dude, I'm all over this. This last year, I was all over my yard picking weeds and dehydrating and making tinctures, and I have a whole apothecary, whatever you call it, in my cupboard in there of stuff that I have went out and got me some 100 proof vodka. I just started doing YouTube videos and searching it because, you know, with our economy, the state our country's in, if poop ever hit the fan, I want to know I can take care of myself without the medications. Because if poop hit the fan, you wouldn't be able to go to the pharmacy. So I start researching this stuff in my own backyard. I have, like with a tincture, you go get 100 proof vodka, and it's simply fill your jar up with your leaves or your plant matter, fill it up with vodka, put a lid on it, and stick it in your dark cupboard for 3 months. Label it, because one jar I forgot to label and I have no idea what it is. In 3 months, you take the jar out, you strain the plant matter out of it, put the vodka back in a jar, and put it away, and hello, it's good for 10 years. If you ever get sick or whatever, you do a study. I started doing a study, and in my book that Nicole wrote, I started putting down dosages so that I would know how much to take, and I would stick it in the book. So if poop ever hit the fan and we didn't have any internet and a way to look for this stuff, I have stuff on paper that I can go by. Call me crazy. That's okay. I embrace it. So anyway, I just got to thinking, oh my gosh, what about Linda? Could we do a study on the big C word and find out what weeds are good for that, and tinctures or tea or how? And I know you have chickens in your yard and everything else, but you rinse it off. And you don't have to get it out of your own yard. You can go out into a meadow or a field or anywhere, because some places, like here, I don't have many. I have a couple little plants of lamb's quarters. Fleabane, I don't have any in my yard. So I go down the road. I don't get it in the ditch, because you never know what is in the ditch. Like the county may come through and spray. But if I see a meadow or somebody's pasture down the road that has a lot of fleabane in it, I just pull over and go pick some. I'm sure they don't mind if I pull their weeds. Globe thistle, same way. I only had one globe thistle in my yard. I'm embracing the weeds. I'm not pulling weeds in my flower bed anymore. I'm embracing them. I'm letting them grow, and I'm harvesting them just like I would a garden. Listen, people, God knew what he was doing when he put all these plants on the earth. They're beneficial for other animals. Here we are paying big bucks to spray and kill our dandelion when it's one of the most nutritious weeds out there. It's nutritious for the bees. The bees have to pollinate in order to pollinate food products. I got to slow down. I'm getting too excited. I've started embracing the dandelion. I let it go. I go harvest it. Wow, that's really hot. Isn't that awesome? So I'm going to let it sit out for a little bit. Anyway, when I started looking what all is in these plants, I realized God knows what he's doing. You know how when you take a supplement and they'll say, if you take calcium, you should have magnesium with it, helps with the absorption. Or if you have magnesium, you should have potassium. They link different things together that help in the absorption and the getting into the bloodstream of the supplement. These weeds have it all together. Where they need to be, the others are there with it. It's like a one package deal. Like, okay, let's say, well, first of all, I feel like purslane and lamb's quarters are two of the most beneficial weeds out there in my area. Purslane has omega-3. It fights cancer and cardiovascular disease. Lamb's quarters have fiber, protein. You don't think of a weed as having protein. You think, oh, I got to have an animal. No, a lot of these weeds have protein in it. Lamb's quarters has fiber, protein, vitamin A, C, has minerals of copper, iron, zinc, and I don't know how much what else, and omega-3 and 6. Purslane has the omegas. I told you it's cancer fighting. Another huge one, nettles, stinging nettles, and I don't have any in my area. I would love to. They have iron, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. It has minerals, has C and all the B vitamins and protein. I mean, come on, people. Why are we not eating our weeds? Anyway, dandelion, another great one. It's the leaves are the root is a detoxifier for the liver and the gallbladder. It's an antioxidant, which I don't even know what it is. It improves your immune system, and the leaves help with kidney function. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to tell you guys. I'm just thinking that we all need to get into the weeds. I'm just thinking that's where it's at. And I'm just thinking that maybe Linda would really benefit from eating some weeds. That's all I'm saying. If you're not, that's fine with me, because you will find whatever you feel the best about your new way of life. But by golly, you guys, I'm going to eat my weeds, and I'm going to, I mean, I've got all these things dried right now. I could be putting them in my tea. Why I don't have stuff in my tea right now, I don't know. Now, I'm not telling you it's yummy. When you think of a tea, you think, oh, I'm having raspberry tea and it's yummy. Well, weeds aren't always yummy in a tea. It's like, drinking grass or alfalfa. You have to look at it as this is medicinal. This is, like I told Linda, I want to learn to eat to live and stop living to eat. So when I drink my tea, I need to stop thinking I need a frou-frou tea and think this is what I have to drink to live. That's the way I have to change my mindset. What do you guys think? Tell me your opinion. Am I cray-cray? And that's okay if I am. But boy, I'm getting a lot done on my sewing by gabbing, aren't I? I'm just going to sew this up and put my felt piece on, and I'll be done. And when I come back on, I'll show you. Oh, Dang it, I don't know if my new little subscriber is watching this. I wrote her name down. I forgot. She said, oh, I wish you'd tell us the story about your mom's UFO encounter. Remember the other day I was doing that little folio pack and I ran across that page where my mom had reported her sighting. So I'll just tell the story in case my new subscriber made it through this video. Bless your heart if you did. We lived in Payson, Illinois, Plainville, Illinois. It was outside of Quincy. We lived outside of town, population probably 110, tiny little town. And my mom worked for Motorola, second shift. So she came home, you know, at night after midnight. She come home one night and we lived on a blacktop, like, you know, the blacktop goes out of town, and our farm was, you know, outside of town, but still on the blacktop. And the cornfield was across the highway. So she gets out of the car and she walks around the back of the car, and she's walking towards the blacktop road, looking out across the cornfield, and she notices this set of lights coming for her, and the pattern on the lights was weird. And now remember, we live in Illinois, and where we lived, you don't always see an airplane. Airplanes were not like a common thing, but she thought, wow, that's weird. Is that an airplane? Then she thought, well, that's not any pattern you would think you'd see on an airplane. And so she stood there and watched it, and she said to herself, well, if it's an airplane, why can't I hear anything? You couldn't hear nothing. She thought it was flying low. She thought she should be able to hear it. So she just stood there and watched it for a little bit, and it came closer and closer, and she said, it stopped. Like it almost hovered over the highway, the blacktop, and she's like, why can I not hear that? And she said it appeared that the lights were almost in an oval or a circular shape. So she couldn't tell if it was, you know, a mirage, the way you look at things. It looks like lights are like this, because it was still way up in the sky. She couldn't, but lower, too low for what she thought a plane should be. She said it stopped at the highway and rotated and then went up the highway. And that scared the pee-wadding out of her, and she ran in the house and couldn't believe what she'd just seen. Like, what did she just see? She said, she's thinking, do we have another country over here that's broken our airspace? Or is it the military experimenting with a new aircraft? What was that, and why was there no sound? Well, she felt like she should tell somebody. Well, she didn't know who to tell, so she told her boss at Motorola. And her boss got in contact with whoever that chapter person was in Quincy, and got my mom to go turn it in to what she'd seen. Yep. That's what she saw. Well, years later, she becomes a Christian, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be the test. If that was just a story old Jane was telling, now that she's a Christian, she's going to want to come clean. So I asked her, Mom, did you really see that UFO when I was little? And she said, oh, honey, yes, I did. So I feel like she really saw it, or she would have been ready to tell the truth after she was saved. Anyway, that's the story of my mom and her UFO. My new little subscriber that I can't remember your name. I'm sorry. So I'm going to tie this. I should have went in before I sewed these two layers together. I should have stuck this under my sewing, and I didn't. So I'm going to, in my own grungy fashion, sew it on here. I'm going to sew this up. Doesn't matter really, because anyway, I'll show you when I'm done. I'm sure you guys are worn out and tired of listening to Birdie gab. So there you go. Oh, it only took me 45 minutes to gab my head off. Bye-bye from Birdie.